4 months, I woke up to the same scene, trash scattered across my porch, reeking, messy, and humiliating. Plastic bags torn open, food scraps crawling with ants, and worse, notes stuffed inside the garbage with cruel, mocking words. At first, I thought it was an accident. Then, a coincidence. But it didn't take long to realize, someone was doing this on purpose. The police didn't help. The neighborhood watch turned a blind eye. My neighbors? Most avoided eye contact, pretending they didn't see what was happening every morning. I was alone. But I kept silent, until the day I found something in the trash that changed everything. That day, I decided I wouldn't be the victim anymore. I was going to find out who was behind it. I was going to make them pay. And I was going to do it in a way they'd never forget. What started as a quiet act of revenge would soon unravel secrets this neighborhood never wanted exposed. If you love intense, real-life inspired revenge stories, told from a personal point of view, this is for you. Subscribe to our channel, leave your theories in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like button to support our stories. It started with a plastic bag. A crumpled grocery bag left at the edge of my doormat. It was early spring, still a little chilly in the mornings, and I was heading out to work when I nearly stepped on it. Inside, rotten fruit and an empty beer can. I live alone. A small house on a quiet cul-de-sac. No wild parties, no drama. Just me, my job at the city records office, and my dog Winston. So, I figured maybe a raccoon had dragged it over. I threw it out and forgot about it. The next day, another bag. This time, fast food wrappers, a used tissue, and a crumpled receipt. I checked the street, nothing in front of any other houses. Just mine. By the end of the week, it was a daily ritual. I'd open the front door and find garbage, banana peels, cigarette butts, takeout boxes, and even a broken toy once. At first, I felt embarrassed. Was someone mad at me? A neighbor? A kid playing pranks? I knocked on doors, trying to be polite. I asked if anyone had seen anything. Most smiled awkwardly and shook their heads. "That's awful," they'd say. "Hope it stops soon." It didn't. Winston barked every morning at 4 a.m., facing the door. I figured he was just being a dog, but now I wonder if he knew something I didn't. Then one day, I found a note inside the garbage. It was short. All it said was, "You deserve this." The note shook me. Suddenly it wasn't just annoying, it was personal. Someone hated me enough to do this daily, in secret, and to tell me I deserved it. But why? I racked my brain. Had I reported someone? Cut someone off in traffic? Maybe at work. I'm not the confrontational type. I avoid gossip. I mind my business. So why me? I decided to file a police report. Officer Daniels, a tall, tired man with little patience, showed up the next afternoon. He walked around the front yard, scribbled on his pad, and offered me a generic response. Could be a prank. Maybe kids. Get a camera. A camera. I hadn't thought of that. That night, I went online and ordered a motion-activated security cam with night vision. It arrived 2 days later. I installed it near the porch light, angled it just right, and waited. The next morning, trash. More than usual. A full black garbage bag dumped on the steps. And this time, something new. Cat litter. Winston gagged as I pulled him back from it. I gagged too. The stench was unbearable. I rushed to the laptop and loaded the footage. There, at 3:47 a.m., a blurry figure crept up the steps. Hoodie pulled low, gloves on. They didn't run, they strolled. Calm. Confident. They set the bag down gently. Then walked off. It wasn't a prank. It was calculated. But the worst part. I recognized the hoodie. It belonged to one of my neighbors, Ricky, the guy who lived 3 doors down. Friendly on the surface. Always waved. Borrowed my rake once and returned it clean. But there was no mistaking that hoodie, green with white stripes on the sleeves, just like the one he always wore when jogging. I had proof. But what was I going to do with it? I couldn't confront Ricky. Not yet. I needed more. One video wasn't enough. He could claim it wasn't him, or that someone borrowed his hoodie. I needed a pattern, something indisputable. So, I waited. Each night, I checked the camera. Each morning, I found more garbage. Sometimes big bags, sometimes just a few items. Every time, it was him. Same walk. Same hoodie. Same time window between 3:30 and 4 a.m. But why? What did I ever do to him? I looked into his life. I found out Ricky worked from home, freelancing as a web developer. Quiet guy. Never married. No kids. Nothing odd, at least not at first glance. Then I remembered something. About 8 months ago, I had called city zoning because of loud construction behind my property. It had gone on for weeks, late-night drilling, generators, illegal hours. I never knew who was responsible. The city issued a warning, and the noise stopped. Could it have been Ricky? I pulled out the paperwork from the complaint, buried in a folder. Permit number. Address. Bingo. The lot directly behind mine. Registered to a holding company, but owned by Ricky. So that was it. He knew it was me. And now, he was punishing me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Rage boiled in my chest. I wanted to scream. But instead, I wrote. I documented everything. Each date, each video frame, each bag of trash. I printed screenshots. I started a file. I even mapped the times. And then I did something a little reckless. I started responding. The next morning, I placed a note on top of the trash bag. I know who you are. The following day, the garbage didn't come. For the first time in over 2 months, I stepped outside to a clean porch. I felt a flicker of victory. Maybe that was enough. Maybe I'd scared him off. Then, on the 3rd day, I received a package at my door. No return address. Just a small box, taped tightly shut. Inside, another note. You really shouldn't have done that. And below it, dead rats. 3 of them. The rats shook me. I dropped the box and jumped back, hands trembling, stomach turning. Winston growled, sensing my fear. I stood there on my porch, heart racing, staring at the dead animals as if they'd move. As if they'd speak. They didn't need to. The message was clear. I had crossed a line. But here's the thing, so had he. I called the police again. Officer Daniels returned, slower this time, like he had better things to do. I showed him the box, the footage, the notes. He watched. He took notes. And then he gave me another dead-end answer. We can't prove he put the rats in the box unless you have footage of him delivering it. But I have multiple videos of him dumping trash. Unfortunately, Daniels said, the system's slow. You'll need to press charges formally, and it may not stick. And the rats, unless they're linked to a threat of violence, it's not considered assault. It's a gray area. A gray area. That's what they called psychological torment now. He left me with a card and a sigh. Document everything, he said. Stay safe. But I didn't feel safe. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched my porch through the live camera feed, staring at the grainy black and white footage like it held the answer to my freedom. At 3:42 a.m., Ricky appeared again. Not to drop trash, but to watch. He stood across the street, arms crossed, hoodie up. Just watching my house. My door. Me. It was no longer about trash. It was about control. Something inside me snapped that night. I wasn't going to wait for Ricky to stop. Or for the police to act. Or for another box of horror to show up at my door. No. I was going to end this. Not with violence. Not with anger. But with intelligence. And strategy. I started with research. If Ricky wanted war, I would give him one. But on my terms. First, I dug into every public record tied to him. Land ownership, taxes, web domain registrations. I discovered he had 3 websites, 2 inactive, 1 for freelance work. I downloaded everything: his bio, his clients, his contact info. Next, I joined the HOA meeting for the first time. I requested a private hearing. I laid out my evidence: the videos, the timeline, the notes, even the box of rats, which I had frozen in case I needed evidence later. They were horrified. The HOA president, Marlene, promised action, finally. But that wasn't enough. I knew Ricky valued his image. Quiet. Professional. Polished. His reputation was his currency. So I created a burner account, posed as a client, scheduled a consultation through his site. While waiting, I built a website of my own, a mirror site, duplicating his layout but exposing the truth. Screenshots, videos, timelines. Not publicly posted yet, but ready. Meanwhile, I ordered a second camera, this one with a zoom lens, pointed it toward his house from an upstairs window. I needed every angle, every move. Then I waited. And the next time he approached my house, I did something I hadn't done before. I opened the door. He froze. Our eyes locked. And I smiled. "Nice hoodie," I said. He blinked, startled. Then, he smirked. "You don't scare me," he muttered, turning and walking off. But that smirk? That was the crack in the armor I needed. He was rattled. Now that I had his attention, it was time to spring the trap. I started small. A series of passive reminders to let him know I was watching. One night, I placed a speaker near my porch playing a soft, looped recording. "I see you. You're not invisible." Another night, I left a fake city notice on his mailbox. Just a blank envelope stamped, "Zoning Violation Review Pending." It wasn't illegal, just paper. But it worked. The next morning, I saw him pacing outside his house, phone in hand, looking worried. Still, he hadn't stopped. So I leveled up. I contacted his freelance clients, using my burner identity, and asked about his reliability. Some praised him. Others had complaints: slow communication, incomplete work. I gathered these, built a pattern. Then I posted the Mirror website. It wasn't public yet, but I sent the link anonymously to his inbox. The subject line: "You're not as hidden as you think." It took less than a day for the retaliation. That night, my power flickered. Twice. Winston barked, uneasy. I checked the camera. Nothing. But in the morning, I found deep scratches on the side of my car. And taped to my window was a photo of me, walking Winston, from behind. This was beyond harassment now. It was stalking. I contacted a lawyer. I filed for a restraining order. I submitted everything to the police again. This time, it got flagged as a more serious case. Officer Daniels actually looked apologetic when he called me back. "We're moving forward with an investigation," he said. "Don't engage him anymore." But it was too late for that. Because while the authorities played catch-up, I had something else in motion. My neighbor, Marlene from the HOA, had tipped me off about a neighborhood security upgrade. They were planning to install street cameras, funded partially by Ricky himself during a beautification campaign last year. All I had to do was make sure the board voted to activate them. So I showed up at the next meeting, folder in hand. And I gave them a presentation titled, "What Happens When a Bully Thinks No One Is Watching?" The HOA meeting was tense. I stood in front of the room, just a dozen neighbors, but it felt like a courtroom, and laid out my case. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. I presented the data: camera footage, time logs, property damage, psychological toll. I showed a short clip from the security camera, carefully edited to keep faces blurred but actions clear. There were gasps, murmurs. Even people who had previously avoided me suddenly leaned forward, whispering to each other. And then I said the magic words: "If this can happen to me, it can happen to any of you." That sealed it. The board voted unanimously to activate the street-facing cameras. Installation would begin the following week. Marlene squeezed my arm after the meeting. "You did the right thing," she whispered. But I didn't feel proud. I felt dangerous. Back home, I lit a single candle and sat in silence. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I let it ring out. A minute later, a voicemail popped up. I hit play. Ricky's voice. Low. Controlled. "You think you're smart. You think this makes you safe. But all it does is show how weak you are. You're not in control. You're being watched too." Click. I saved the recording and forwarded it to my lawyer. This was no longer neighborhood drama. It was war. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. Ricky knocked on my door. I froze. Winston barked like mad behind me. The camera caught it all, him standing there in broad daylight, hoodie off, face bare, sweating despite the cold. I opened the door just enough to speak. "What do you want?" He looked tired. Not angry. Not smug. Just drained. "Can we talk?" he said. "No." He nodded, almost like he expected that. But then he did something strange. He pulled a folded envelope from his jacket and held it up. "Just read it," he said. "After that, you'll understand." I hesitated. Took the envelope through the crack in the door. Closed it. Watched from the peephole as he walked away, head down. Inside, I opened the note. It was handwritten, messy, rushed. But what it contained was something I never expected. A confession. He admitted to the trash, the notes, even the rats. He explained that after I reported the illegal construction, he lost tens of thousands in fines. His side business, a small property renovation firm, was nearly shut down. He blamed me for exposing him. "I lost a lot because of you," the letter read. "But I know now it was my fault. I didn't follow the rules. I got angry and took it out on you. I'm sorry." I sat on the couch and read the letter again. And again. It didn't excuse anything. But it shifted something inside me. I felt pity. A flicker of humanity. But then I reached the last line. "This doesn't mean I forgive you either." So it wasn't an apology. It was a warning. I didn't sleep that night. The letter played on repeat in my head. That last line. That strange visit. Why would someone admit guilt and still not back down? Because this wasn't about right or wrong anymore. It was about pride. And Ricky wasn't done. Not yet. But neither was I. The street cameras were installed 2 days later. I got an alert from Marlene that they were live. I watched from my upstairs window as the workers drilled and mounted the final camera directly across from Ricky's driveway. That night, I did something symbolic. I took every piece of garbage I'd saved. Yes, I'd kept some in sealed bags, labeled and documented, and I lit them on fire in a portable fire pit on my driveway. I stood there, watching the flames, letting the smoke rise high into the air. Winston sat beside me, calm for once. I wasn't doing this to provoke. I was doing it to end it. And the next morning, something miraculous happened. Nothing. No trash. No notes. No strange packages. No voicemails. It was quiet. Peaceful. For a full week, it stayed that way. And then, just when I thought the war had ended, I found a message scratched into the side of my trash bin. "One day, I'll return the favor." I took a picture. And smiled. Because this time, the new street camera had caught every second. Including Ricky's face in perfect detail. The image was perfect. Ricky crouched next to my trash bin, carving into the plastic with a box cutter. No hoodie. No gloves. Just his face, fully visible, caught by the brand new neighborhood camera I had lobbied to install. It was poetic. I downloaded the footage. Backed it up in 3 different places. And then I made the decision that would change everything. No more playing defense. I drove straight to the police station. No phone calls, no emails. I wanted to hand-deliver the evidence to a human being who had to look me in the eye. Detective Morales greeted me. Young, focused, and unlike Officer Daniels, she actually listened. She watched the clip twice, asked for the previous videos, and took notes quickly. "This is more than harassment," she said. "This borders on stalking, destruction of property, and intimidation." I nodded. "It's been months. I want to press charges." "Good," she said. "You should." And just like that, the wheels started turning. That afternoon, I received a follow-up call. The police would be visiting Ricky's house for questioning. The restraining order was in process. They recommended I stay alert but not engage. But the moment I stepped back into my house, there was something new. Another envelope on my doormat. This time, no note. Just a photo, an old one, of me and my ex-girlfriend, taken from Facebook. On the back, scribbled in pen, "You've always been good at ruining things." I stared at the photo, then at my reflection in the window. He wanted fear. Instead, I felt fire. 2 days passed. The police showed up at Ricky's place. I watched from my living room window as 2 officers knocked at his door. He didn't answer at first. But eventually, he came out. I saw him argue, gesture wildly, shake his head. He wasn't arrested, yet, but something had changed. The very next morning, the trash was gone. Not just from my property, his, too. His front yard was spotless, almost as if he was trying to present himself as a model citizen. But the neighborhood had already shifted. People began avoiding him. I received quiet nods, soft thank yous from neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years. One even dropped off cookies. "You did what we were all afraid to do," she said. Ricky had become a ghost. Still, I stayed cautious. I installed a second lock on my door, reinforced the windows, and made sure Winston never left my sight during walks. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Detective Morales called. "We've compiled enough to formally charge him with criminal harassment and property damage," she said. "He'll be served a court date this week. Stay alert. Let us know if anything changes." I hung up and exhaled for the first time in weeks. This was it. He was going to be held accountable. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on the porch, peaceful, for once. The wind was soft. The streetlights hummed. Then I noticed it. Across the street. A figure. Not Ricky. Someone shorter. Hooded. Walking slowly toward my mailbox. I stood, heart pounding. Winston growled. The figure turned, and ran. I sprinted to the mailbox and pulled it open. Inside. Another note. "You think it's over. It's just begun." I was done being shocked. Done being scared. This wasn't just Ricky anymore. Someone else was involved. But who? That night, I went over every recording, frame by frame. Whoever had dropped the note wasn't on my main camera. But the zoom lens upstairs had caught something. A car parked 2 houses down, engine running, lights off. The license plate wasn't visible. But I had a hunch. So the next morning, I went to visit Marlene from the HOA. She met me on her porch, wrapped in a shawl and sipping tea. "I heard he's getting charged," she said before I could even speak. "About time." I nodded. But someone else dropped a threat in my mailbox. "I need to know, has anyone else in the neighborhood ever complained about Ricky? Or worked with him?" She went quiet. Her eyes narrowed. "There's something you should know," she said, lowering her voice. "A few years ago, Ricky dated a woman on this block. Briefly. It ended badly. She moved away, but her sister still lives here." My heart skipped. "Who?" She looked toward the far end of the street. "Angela. 2 houses down from you. The one with the blue shutters." Angela. We'd exchanged waves, small talk, but nothing more. I thanked Marlene and went home. The moment I stepped through my door, I opened my old footage again. The figure dropping the note the night before, slender, small, possibly female. And the car. Registered to Angela's household. I couldn't prove anything yet, but now I had a new player in the game. And I was going to find out how deep this really went. I waited until Saturday morning to approach Angela. She was outside watering her plants, seemingly calm, dressed in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt. I walked up with Winston, who sniffed cautiously at the air. Angela looked up and smiled. Too quickly. "Hey there," she said. "Beautiful morning, huh?" I didn't waste time. "Did you leave a note in my mailbox?" Her smile froze. "What?" "I have footage of someone from your house parking 2 blocks away and dropping something in my mailbox after midnight." She looked down at her plants, hands tightening around the hose. "That wasn't me," she said. "But I think I know who it was." Now she was trembling. Her shoulders hunched like someone carrying weight she no longer wanted. "It was my sister," she whispered. "Ricky used to date her years ago. She was head over heels, and well, you've seen who he really is. He played her. Left her. When she found out he was still living here, when she heard from me about what he was doing to you, she kind of snapped." I took a step back. "So she thought threatening me would help?" Angela shook her head, pleading. No. She just wanted to scare him. Make it feel like he was being watched too. She thought if she could mess with you a little, you'd push harder. Make him crack." I stared at her, sick with the realization. I had been a pawn in someone else's revenge fantasy, caught between 2 toxic people who didn't care who got hurt. "She's gone now," Angela added. "Left town 2 days ago. She's scared of the cops." "Good," I said. "She should be. And so should Ricky." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Just 2 rows of seats, a judge's bench, and a single microphone. It felt more like a classroom than a hall of justice. But it was where things would finally end. I sat with Detective Morales and my lawyer, facing the man who had haunted me for months. Ricky wore a blazer, his hair slicked back, trying to look respectable. But he couldn't hide the twitch in his jaw, the way his eyes kept scanning the room. The judge read out the charges: harassment, criminal mischief, stalking, and illegal surveillance. They'd found a GPS tracker under my car, something I hadn't even known about until after the arrest. Ricky pled not guilty. His lawyer argued that I had embellished the events, that neighborhood disputes often spiral, and that this was no more than a personality clash. Then it was my turn. I stood up and told everything, every note, every trash bag, every video, every threat. I showed the footage, the photos, the letter, the scratched bin, the voicemail. I even submitted Angela's written statement confirming her sister's involvement, unhinged but provoked by his behavior. When I finished, the room was quiet. The judge took a long breath. "This is not a personality clash," she said. "This is targeted, premeditated harassment." She ordered a restraining order to remain in place permanently. Ricky would face sentencing for 2 of the charges, with the rest conditionally dropped if he complied with mandatory therapy and community service. He didn't look at me as he left the courtroom in handcuffs. But I didn't need eye contact. I had closure. It's been 4 months. My porch is clean. The trash never returned. The mailbox is empty except for flyers and bills. Winston walks peacefully by my side again, no longer growling at shadows. Ricky moved out a month after the trial. His house went up for sale, bought by a young couple with a baby on the way. They wave when they see me. I wave back. We don't talk about the past. Angela stays quiet too. We nod politely, but I sense the guilt still lingers in her. That's fine. Let it linger. Let it teach. The cameras are still up. Still recording. Not because I'm scared anymore, but because I've learned something important. When people think no one's watching, they show you who they really are. And me. I've changed too. I don't shrink back when conflict arises. I don't wait for justice. I prepare for it. And when someone tries to bully me into silence, I speak louder. Some people would say I overreacted. But those people never had to pick up soggy trash with handwritten insults for 2 months straight. They never had to explain to a dog why we couldn't go outside at night. They don't understand what it feels like to be targeted. And they'll never understand what it feels like to win. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about standing up, staying smart, and never letting someone else's darkness define your light. I didn't just get my porch back. I got my peace back.